Hello everybody, this again is FIDE Master Dalton Perrine from chessuniversity.com, and this is another video in the video series for Tactics Time. In this video series, I'm going to be working on solving a couple different tactic trainer positions here on chess.com. With each of the positions, I'm going to first of all begin by letting you guys see the tactic. That way, I'll also give you guys time to, or the chance to pause the video so that you can work on solving the problem yourself. And then I'll be explaining my thought process and then solving or showing the solution to the puzzle at that point. So without any more waiting, it is time for some tactics here. So let's go ahead and hit the start button and see what we get. Okay, so in this position here, black has just made the move knight takes d2. It is white's move right now. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for white here. Okay, so in this position here, as white here, after knight takes d2, there's two main things that jump out to me at first. I can take the knight on d2, bishop takes d2, for example, but it also looks like queen takes c6 is very strong. Sometimes just because your opponent captures something doesn't mean you have to capture back right away, especially if whatever they captured, they weren't making a check or anything like that. So we can play what's called an intermezzo, which means I'm going to capture on c6 with check before capturing back on d2. Now, the important thing is if I take on c6, does black have a good answer to that? Black could play bishop to d7, blocking the check and attacking my queen. But I can also, at that point, play queen takes rook, another check once the bishop's on d7, and then I think I just win a bunch of material at that point. After queen takes c6, if the king moves away, then I can take the rook, or I can take the knight on d2. I think both of those would be pretty good. We're going to start off with this move, though. The king does move in this case. So now I have to ask myself the question, should I take the rook on a8, or should I take the knight on d2? I think taking the knight is the best route here, mainly because when I take on d2, I'm simultaneously attacking the queen on a5 with my bishop, and the rook on a8 is still going to be undefended. No matter where the queen moves away to, I will also pick up the rook. And also, if I take the rook right now, if I do take the rook right now, black gets the chance to move the knight away with the discovered check, and I have to be a little careful about that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the knight first, actually. Oh, okay, and it just says solved here in this position. The idea is that the queen is attacked right now, and the rook is also attacked by my queen. No matter where black moves the queen, I'm going to pick up the rook next move, because black cannot move the queen anywhere to protect the rook right now. So a little bit of intermezzo here, which is also called, I think there's the German word for it is like Zwischenzug. I might be wrong with the pronunciation. But queen takes c6 here after black takes on d2 is better than just taking back on d2, because then the queen can move away and protect c6. And instead of losing, a rook, black is only going to lose like a pawn instead. So definitely a big difference there. Let's go ahead and move on to our next position. Okay, so in this position here, it is white's move right now. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for this position. Okay, so in this position here, I'm white. There's a couple of things I'm looking at here at the start. I'm always looking for my checks at the beginning. Rook h8 check and queen takes f7 check look like the only two that I see. Queen takes f7, he's just going to play queen takes back. I don't think that works out very well. I think I kind of need to keep my queen alive to make a tactic work here. Rook h8 check might actually work, though, because it pulls the queen away. Rook h8, queen takes. It pulls the queen away from guarding the g4 pawn. If the queen is not here on g7 right now, if it's gone, then I can take on g4, and that'll hit the king and the rook on c8 at the same time. So this is actually a critical square here on g4. f7 is also critical as well. Now that I just mentioned that, that makes a huge difference now that I just noticed f7 was a critical square. If I pull the queen away from guarding f7, I can take f7 with checkmate. So actually this, notice how I wasn't actually thinking the right answer at the beginning, but now I see it. Rook h8 check, the queen takes the rook, and then queen takes f7 is going to be checkmate, because the queen is going to be on h8 blocking the king out. So that looks very strong. Rook h8, queen has to take, And instead of taking on g4, which objectively is probably still winning, take the g4, take the rook, and something like that. Taking on f7 is clearly the best move because it's a checkmate. So I actually was thinking about the wrong answer at the start. I was thinking about queen takes g4, but once I noticed that the f7 square was critical as well, then I saw that, oh, the queen leaving it will be a big difference maker. So interesting how you can sometimes be thinking the wrong thing and then make your way along to the right thing at some point. Okay, let's move on to our next position. All right, so white just made the move, queen to d3. Go ahead and pause your video and see what you would come up with for black in this position. Black to move right now. Okay, so in this position here, it's black's move. Again, always looking for checks to start off with. We have knight takes f3 check and queen takes e3 check. Queen takes e3 just loses the queen. Knight takes f3, the rook takes back, and I don't see a great answer, a great follow-up there. There's not really any good captures either, but there is a big threat that I see. Once white makes this move queen to d3, the queen and the rook are on the same lineup. They are diagonally matched with each other. And it looks like I can just put the bishop on b5 here. Bishop to b5, skewer the queen to the rook. Queen moves, I take the rook, and I think I just win the exchange there. So this just kind of comes down to looking at the whole board. I might be focused more so on the king side, but then it looks like the bishop actually is the difference maker here. Bishop to b5. Now, I don't want to take the rook right now because white is now attacking my queen. So it's very important that I take the queen on d4 first, then take the rook on f1, and now we're going to be up the exchange with a winning position pretty much. Okay, so notice how important that is. Just because your opponent you make your tactic, you make bishop b5, and you look like you're skewering the queen. White moves away with queen d4. Don't just think, oh, okay, you moved the queen, I can take the rook now. If you take the rook, you lose your own queen. That would be very bad. Now, you also don't want to move the queen away and give white time to move the rook. So it's important that you take the queen here because white has to take back, or else he's down a queen, and then you take the rook rather than like moving the queen away and giving white time to move the rook away. So definitely an important situation there where you have to... it also helps to simplify anyways. Trading material when your head is usually good anyways. Okay, so that's it for this video. That's it for these couple of tactics position here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I will see you guys around in a future tactics time video or a future video for chessuniversity.com. And I hope you guys will join me in the future. All right, bye everybody.